Trapped in Time: The Haunting Tale of Floyd Collins, 1925. In the early months of 1925, the quiet hills of central Kentucky bore silent witness to an unfolding tragedy that would captivate a nation and transform a local cave explorer into a figure of national folklore. Floyd Collins, a determined and daring spelunker, entered a narrow limestone passage in pursuit of discovery, and would never return to the surface alive. His entrapment, the frenzied rescue efforts that followed, and the media spectacle surrounding his fate represent a defining moment in early 20th century America, a sobering intersection of ambition, human frailty, and public fascination. William Floyd Collins, born in 1887, was a pioneering cave explorer of the Mammoth Cave region of Kentucky. Raised in a family familiar with the underground world, Collins developed a passion for spelunking at a young age. His greatest achievement was the discovery of Crystal Cave in 1917, a venture he hoped would draw tourists and generate income. Though the cave was impressive, its remote location left it overshadowed by more accessible attractions. Undeterred, Collins continued his quest for a more profitable discovery, viewing the unexplored sand cave as his next great opportunity. During the early 20th century, the Mammoth Cave region of Kentucky became the epicenter of a unique commercial rivalry known as the Cave Wars. Competing landowners sought to attract tourists to their underground marvels by any means necessary. As the American public's interest in natural wonders and roadside attractions grew, enterprising locals turned cave systems into lucrative businesses. In this competitive and often cutthroat environment, Floyd Collins emerged not merely as an adventurer, but as a visionary intent on transforming the obscure into the extraordinary. By the winter of 1925, Collins had set his sights on Sand Cave, an undeveloped and treacherous cavern system located near Cave City. On the morning of January 30th, with little more than a kerosene lantern, ropes, and provisions, he descended alone into the tight, twisting channels beneath the surface. His goal was to chart the passages, widen them for future tourists, and stake a claim before others could do the same. As Collins made his way through the narrowing passageways, he encountered sharp turns, loose gravel, and jagged rock formations. The deeper he crawled, the more perilous the environment became. Eventually, while navigating a particularly narrow chute approximately 150 feet underground, a large rock dislodged and pinned his left leg in place. Alone, immobilized, and confined in a space barely large enough to breathe, Floyd Collins had become a prisoner of the earth. When Collins failed to return that evening, his family and friends initiated a frantic search. After hours of probing the darkness, faint cries were eventually heard echoing from within the passage. News of the entrapment quickly spread, and what began as a private rescue mission soon evolved into a public sensation. Within days, the desolate site was overrun with journalists, photographers, and curious onlookers. The Louisville Courier-Journal, the New York Times, and even radio stations dispatched reporters. Floyd Collins' ordeal became the first live-breaking media event of the radio era, drawing tens of thousands to the site and millions of listeners nationwide. The cave became a stage, and Collins, its reluctant star. Over the next several days, rescue teams made repeated efforts to reach Collins. Volunteers risked their lives crawling through unstable rock. A rotating team fed him food, coffee, and blankets through a narrow tunnel. Among them was reporter and amateur rescuer William Burke Skeets Miller, who braved the perilous crawl multiple times to speak with Floyd and relay his words to the world. Engineers proposed digging a vertical shaft from the surface to bypass the collapsed passages. Time, however, was not on their side. Cave-ins, freezing temperatures, and lack of coordination plagued the effort. Days passed. By the time the shaft was completed, hope had begun to fade. Floyd Collins' name became a household word. Families across the country gathered by radios to hear updates on his condition. National newspapers ran headlines daily. Schools paused for prayers. Never before had the American public been so intimately connected to the plight of a single individual beneath the earth. On the morning of February 4th, another collapse sealed the tunnel. It was no longer possible to reach Floyd. Despite continued excavation, no signs of life were heard. On February 16th, after 17 days underground, Floyd Collins was declared dead. The final cause: exposure, thirst, and suffocation. In a controversial and macabre turn, Floyd's body was eventually recovered 2 months later and placed in a glass coffin within Crystal Cave. For years, tourists were charged to view his remains. Though he had become a martyr in life, in death he became an exhibit. It was not until decades later that his body was properly reburied. The Floyd Collins tragedy sparked widespread public discourse on rescue protocol, media ethics, and the treatment of human suffering as spectacle. The event highlighted the urgent need for professionalized cave rescue services, a need that would eventually be addressed in the years that followed. Today, Floyd Collins is remembered not merely as a casualty of misfortune, but as a symbol of human perseverance and the fragile line between exploration and peril. His legacy lives on in books, songs, documentaries, and the very stone corridors where his voice once echoed in the dark. The story of Floyd Collins endures because it asks timeless questions about ambition, mortality, and how we respond when one of our own falls beneath the surface. Beneath the layers of rock lies not only the memory of a man, but a mirror of our own fears, hopes, and humanity.